Hello, angels. I'm here today to talk about a really highly requested topic. In my last video from the comments, this was overwhelmingly what you guys want to see me talk about. So today, let's talk about macros. Everyone freaks out about macros. I don't know why. Actually, I do know why, because I think in the beginning of my keto journey, I definitely did too. So today I'm just going to break it all down. There'll be no more questions, no more worrying, no more wondering. I think I can offer a really good perspective here because I've done keto to lose weight, I've done keto to maintain weight, and now I'm doing keto to gain weight. Before I start talking about macros, there's something really important that I want to get out of the way first. This is super important, and I want everyone, especially you beginners who are fretting and worrying and so concerned with making sure that you're doing everything perfectly. There is no perfect way to do keto. There is not one way to do keto that works for everyone, and what you really need to do is to find your keto. And if you talk to 20 different people who are doing the keto diet, you're going to find that they all do things a little bit differently. Obviously, there are some essentials to the ketogenic diet that anyone who's following it is doing, the most obvious being the low carb, high fat aspect. But in terms of macros, there are a lot of things that people vary. And not only in terms of macros, in terms of what people eat. Some people choose to not eat any artificial sweeteners because they find it gives them more cravings. Some people have absolutely no issues with them. Some people don't eat any dairy and nuts because they feel that it stalls them. Some people practice intermittent fasting alongside their keto, and that's something that I've been doing for a long time. But none of these things are essential. What's essential is sticking to your macros that you have found work for you. Some people also report having issues with certain low-carb products like Quest bars or the Kirkland protein bars. I don't have any problems with those, so I do eat them once in a while, but you really just need to try, experiment with your body, see what works for you. The easiest way to tell if something has kicked you out of ketosis is to weigh yourself and see if you randomly gained 5 pounds. Because if you get kicked out of keto, your body's going to retain a whole bunch of water and you're going to gain a silly amount of weight overnight. So for me, I actually follow an if it fits your macros sort of keto diet. So basically, I don't restrict any particular foods. Obviously, I don't eat things that are high in carbs, but I don't restrict anything. I don't restrict artificial sweeteners. I eat tons of dairy and nuts. Basically anything that I want to eat, if I can work it into my macros for the day, I'll eat it. That's part of what makes keto sustainable in the long term for me. And sometimes I really just want to eat something that resembles bread or pasta or cake. So I buy low carb breads, I make my own, I bake a lot of keto sweets, and that's just what works for me. And I'm not saying that that will work for you, but that's the way that I've followed the ketogenic diet. Okay, so now let's start talking about macros. So for the standard ketogenic diet, the macros say that from your calories, 5% of those calories should come from carbohydrates, 25% of those calories should come from protein, and the remaining 70% should come from fats. Something I want to point out is that even if you're not hitting those ratios perfectly on the nose every single day, it doesn't mean that you're not in ketosis. I definitely don't hit those perfect ratios every day. In fact, I tend to eat a little bit more protein, and that's something that I'll get into later. But what you want to know is that carbs are a limit, protein is a goal that you should be hitting every single day, and fats are just there as sort of a lever to fill your remaining calories. And it's really important that you hit your protein goal every single day because when you're losing weight, that's going to ensure that you keep as much of your muscle mass as possible. You're going to lose the least possible amount of your lean mass. And when you're gaining weight, you're going to make sure that you're gaining the most possible lean mass. There's a lot of information out there that says that if you eat too much protein, it's going to kick you out of ketosis. And something that I want to say about that is that I consistently eat probably 50 to 60 grams more of protein than what my macros recommend to me, and I have never been kicked out of ketosis from that. That's not on purpose that I do that, it's just I eat a lot of meat, I eat a lot of protein, and I've never had any issues with it. So I just tend to eat a little bit higher protein and a little bit lower in fat, and that's worked out really well for me. That's part of my keto. So now I'll talk about my specific macros for when I was cutting, maintaining, and bulking. First and foremost, when I first started keto, I was doing what the internet likes to call lazy keto, and that just means that I wasn't tracking calories, fat, or protein. I was just making sure that I was staying underneath 20 grams of carbs every day. And the reason that they call that lazy keto is just because it's not as much work. And I actually recommend lazy keto to people who are first starting out definitely in your first week or two. That way, when you're sort of adjusting to the keto diet, trying to figure everything out, you're not super overwhelmed by all of these macros. I actually did lazy keto for about 6 months. I kept that up until my weight loss started to stall, at which point I realized that I needed to start counting calories to actually continue to lose weight. Calculating your macros. The keto calculator that I trust the most, I've used this for any time that I've ever calculated my macros for cutting, maintaining, and bulking, is the Ketogains calculator. I'm going to put a link to that in the description. And also, I have a video on my Instagram where I show exactly how I calculate my macros. I go through all of the steps, what boxes you need to check, and I'll put a link to that as well. The reason that I like the Ketogains calculator is because it does give a little bit higher of a protein macro, just to make sure that you're keeping that lean mass like I talked about before. One thing that I do recommend is setting your activity level in the calculator to sedentary. Unless you actually work an extremely physically demanding job where you're on your feet all day, burning tons of calories, I really think this is the best thing to do. If you set your activity level to sedentary, you'll have the minimum calories for a day when you're doing nothing, which will happen sometimes. And then if you exercise, if you feel hungry, then you can eat back those exercise calories. When you're losing weight or cutting, you're going to have to enter a percent deficit into the calculator. The typical recommended one is about 20%. But one thing that I want to point out is that if you're extremely active, you may want to put this a little bit lower just to make sure that you don't get really hungry. Another important thing to remember is that weight loss is not a race. You don't want to set a huge deficit that's going to make you absolutely miserable. When I got really close to my goal weight, I remember going into the keto calculator and it telling me to eat 1,250 calories a day. And I was going to the gym 6 days a week, and I tried it for a couple days and I was just so unhappy. I felt starving and I just couldn't do it. So I said to myself, okay, I'm not going to do that. So I just started eating 1,400 calories a day like I had already been doing before I recalculated my macros, and I continued to lose weight eating that because I was so active. The calculator is not the be-all end-all. It's not God. It can't tell you what to do exactly. It just provides a sort of baseline to help you understand, sort of approximately what you should be eating. So I would say that for the majority of my cut, I was eating about 1,400 to 1,500 calories. I hit my goal weight at the end of November, and at that time I wasn't ready to start bulking yet. I was just coming up to exams, so I decided to maintain my weight for about 3 weeks before I went home for Christmas vacation. So to do that, I just went into the Ketogains calculator and I put in a 0% deficit. So that was really easy. But then I had to sort of adjust that for my activity level. So basically, I just sort of did trial and error. I would weigh myself and see, okay, did I lose weight? Did I gain weight this week? What happened? And it actually happened that I continued to lose weight by accident. And that was just because I was working out so much. So then I just slowly upped my calories while monitoring my weight to find what calories would allow me to maintain my weight. So when I started to maintain, I was about 145 pounds, and I think I was eating around 1,650 to 1,700 was where I really started to see that I was maintaining my weight. And that was with working out about 5 days a week. When I very first started keto, I was doing CrossFit, and I started out at 3 days a week, and I slowly increased to 5. But then when I came back to school, I was just going to the school gym. And to start out, when I was losing weight, I was lifting 3 days a week, and then I was doing cardio 2 to 3 days a week. And I did the same thing when I was maintaining my weight. So when I went home over the Christmas break, I decided to start my bulk. So I switched from 3 days of lifting and 2 to 3 days of cardio to 6 days of straight lifting. I'm doing push-pull legs, 6-day split, meaning that I do each of those 2 times a week and I rest 1 day per week. And I'm trying to do a lean bulk, which means that I want to gain the least possible amount of fat possible and the maximum possible amount of muscle. But just so you know, it's impossible to bulk and not gain any fat at all, but you can minimize it. And from reading, what I found is that gaining about 0.5 pound a week is the best number you can have to minimize fat gain and maximize muscle gain. But getting your body to gain 0.5 pound a week is really hard, and it takes a lot of trial and error. To be honest, I'm still sort of figuring it out. I think I'm getting really close to that magic calorie number, but I still don't know for sure. So when I started bulking, the Ketogains calculator told me that I should be eating about 1,800 calories for my bulk. So that's what I started with. But rather than shocking my body from the 1,600 calories that I was doing while I was maintaining to going to 200 calories more, I did what they call reverse dieting, which is that I slowly increased my calories. I think I went about a week just increasing by about 50 calories per day until I hit 1800. And I'm weighing myself every day now that I'm bulking, just so that I can really watch closely for the everyday fluctuations. When I was cutting, I didn't do that because I found that it made me a little bit obsessive. So I take a weekly average and then I look at how much weight I've gained from week to week rather than just weighing in once a week, because those everyday fluctuations can sort of give an inaccurate reading when I'm trying to be really specific at gaining half a pound a week. So when I started at about 1800, I was actually still sometimes losing weight, sometimes just maintaining. So after a week of that, I went up to 1850, still wasn't gaining weight. So I went up to 1900, still not gaining weight. Then I went up to 1950, still not gaining weight. And then I went up to 2000, and then I gained like 3 pounds in 1 week. I don't know what happened there. So now I'm eating at about 1950 calories, and it seems to be going pretty well here. So I'm going to keep monitoring it and adjust as necessary, but that seems to be what the best calorie number is for me. And in terms of my actual macros, I really didn't change them that much. And one thing that I forgot to mention is that I eat 30 grams of net carbs per day. When I started out, I was eating 20 grams of net carbs, but like I mentioned before, you can tell if you're out of ketosis by just weighing yourself and seeing if you randomly gained 5 pounds overnight. So over time, I've slowly upped my carb intake to 30, and that's just because I like to eat a lot of vegetables. I wasn't happy eating 20 grams of carbs a day, so part of my keto, again, is that I eat 30 grams of net carbs a day, and my body is okay with that. So for cutting, maintaining, and bulking, I've always been eating about 30 grams of net carbs, except in the very beginning when I started out at 20. For protein, I would say that I probably eat on average about 150 grams of protein a day. The calculator tells me to eat less than that, but I like to eat a lot of protein, so I just do that anyway. And then for fat, like I said, it's just a lever, so I don't have a specific fat macro that I hit every day. To be honest, I don't even really track my fat intake. I just track my calories and my carbs and my protein. And from that, I've had really great results. In terms of how I track my macros, I know a lot of people love to use MyFitnessPal, but I'm secretly a 95-year-old woman on the inside, so I like to track everything by hand. I have these sheets, and I have one of these posted on my Instagram with all of the information filled out, so if you want to go take a look at that, I can put a link in the description. So basically it has a column for food, and then the calories, the protein, and the fats that are in that food. So I just write everything down on here. That's all I do. Most nutritional information is just found directly on the food packaging, but for things like fresh produce and meats, Wikipedia is actually really great, and the USDA also has a fantastic database for finding information. So that's how I find the nutritional information of food that isn't listed directly on the package. So I think that's all I have to say for today. So if you like this video, or even if you hated it and you just want to be a good friend to me, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and leave me a comment letting me know all about your keto. I want to know what works for you guys. Also, if you have any questions at all about macros, keto, me, leave them in the comments and I'll get back to you. I'll see you guys again soon. Bye. To see if this is the angle that I look the most attractive. Is it working? My hair is so staticky again. Can you see that? It's sticking to my face. Okay. Business on top, Christmas party on the bottom. Blah, 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 blah. Shedding like a wild animal. Everybody's worried about what everybody's wondering out. Sounded like my neighbor was having sex, but really she was just walking up the stairs, making sex noises. You should set your activity level again. Dear God, help me. 5% from carbohydrates, 75% from fats, and then 30%. Those numbers don't make 100.